There's a jar sitting out in my yard right now, tucked under the low corner of a sheet of clear plastic, staked out over a bed of dry grass. Nobody carried water to it. It has not rained here in 11 days, and the creek down through the oak and hickory is low enough to walk in my boots without wetting a sock. But this morning, when I went out at first light with my coffee, there was better than a quart of clean water standing in that jar. That water came out of the air, out of something you cannot see, sitting over your head right now, everywhere on this continent, every night of the year. The whole setup cost me about $12, and $8 of those dollars were the plastic. Nobody locked this away in a vault. There is no money in the sky. You cannot meter it, you cannot bottle it, and nobody ever got rich selling a man what he can reach up and take for free. Stay with me to the end, because whether that sheet hands you a full quart or nothing at all comes down to one thing happening to it all night long, and it has nothing to do with the air. It is the sky. And once I show you what the sky quietly takes out of that sheet, you will understand why the old ones never set a dew catcher under a tree. I'm Wes Kingfisher. I'm 64 years old, of Cherokee heritage, raised by my grandmother Ada in these hills of eastern Oklahoma on the same few acres where I am standing right now. Ada taught me the plants and the kitchen, and my grandfather and my uncles taught me the woods, the fire, and the water especially. And 40 years on the powwow trail and at the intertribal gatherings taught me the rest, from the northern plains down into the desert southwest, where water is not one chore on a list, it is the whole day. But this doesn't start with a sheet of plastic. It starts with the trouble we have made for ourselves about water, and it is a trouble the old ones never had. Everybody I know solves water by storing it. Cases of bottles along the garage wall, a couple of blue barrels out by the shed, and you tell yourself you are set. So let us do the arithmetic together, because it is not pretty. One grown person needs about a gallon a day. That is drinking, cooking, and enough left over to wash your face. A gallon a day. And I want you to hear that twice. A gallon a day for one person. 2 people in the house and a 55-gallon barrel is empty inside of 4 weeks. Then you are standing in your garage looking at a piece of blue plastic. Stored water has an end on it. That is the whole problem, and the end always arrives at the worst possible hour. Our people never stored water that way, and it was not for lack of thinking of it. They didn't have to. They knew how to go get more every day, off the land, out of the plants, and on the right kind of night, straight out of the air. And I keep saying the right kind of night. I am coming back to that, because the kind of night decides everything. Now, what I am showing you today is one page out of a book I put together called The Native American Way, 101 Remedies, Skills, and Recipes that kept my people alive for 10,000 years. It is my name on the front, Wes Kingfisher, and every bit of it came to me the way this water did, out of Ada's kitchen and off the elders of Indian country, inside of the backyard plants, and how the old ones actually used them, the teas and the salves, the wild foods and when to gather them, putting food up for winter, and the fire, shelter, and water skills, which is where today's page lives. It is $17, marked down from $47, $17 one time against a lifetime of paying for what this land gives away. Now go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera, the same one you use to take pictures. Point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up, give it a tap, and it will take you straight to the book. And if you are watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Take your time. There is no rush at all. I'll wait right here. Now, before we ever get to plastic and gutters and stakes, I want to pull back about 10,000 years, because the first dew catcher on this continent was not a machine. It was a woman with a rag. My grandmother Ada would walk out into the meadow behind the smokehouse before the sun was up, in a cotton dress and rubber boots, with a flour sack towel over her arm and a galvanized bucket swinging in her hand. She never called it harvesting water. She never called it anything at all. It was just what a person did on a heavy morning in October when the spring box was running low. Here's exactly how it goes. Take this slow because there is nothing to it except doing it right. Step 1. Go out in the hour before the sun comes up. That is the hour before sunrise, not after, and I will tell you why in a minute. Step 2. Carry a towel and a bucket with a wide mouth. An old bath towel will do. A piece of wool, blanket, does better than anything, and I will tell you why that is as well. Step 3. Hold the towel by 2 corners and let the middle of it hang down loose. Step 4. Walk slow through the grass, swinging that middle across the tops of the blades. Step 5. Stay up on top of the grass. Do not press the towel down into the dirt, because dirt is the one thing you cannot wring back out. Step 6. After 10 or 15 steps, that towel will feel heavy in your hands. Stop right there and wring it out into the bucket with both hands hard. Step 7, go again and again. Take your time with it. There is no rush at all, and your knees are going to get wet no matter how careful a walker you are. So it is walk, swing, ring, repeat. 4 moves, and a child can do all 4. Now the honest number. On a heavy dew morning in the fall, in a good stand of tall grass, I can put about 2 quarts in that bucket in half an hour. 2 quarts in half an hour. Off grass I never watered and never paid a dime for. That will not fill a bathtub, but it will make a pot of coffee, it will fill the dog bowl, and in a bad week it will keep a person going. And you have a narrow window on it. Once the sun clears the tree line, that dew is gone in about 20 minutes. It does not drip off into the ground. It goes right back up into the air it came out of. So if you're strolling out there at 8 o'clock in the morning with your towel over your arm, you're just taking a walk. Ada had a saying about that. She said the morning hands it to you with an open hand and takes it back with a closed one. Now, about that wool blanket. A wool blanket beats a smooth cotton towel for one reason, and it is the same reason this whole video works. Fuzz. A fuzzy surface has many times the catching area of a smooth one, and every one of those little fibers is out there in the open, cold, and waiting. A grass blade works the same way, which is why a meadow gives you dew and a parking lot gives you nothing. So what is dew, really? Because if you understand this one plain thing, everything else I show you today will make sense on its own. The air around you is carrying water right now that you cannot see. Not fog, not mist, vapor. It is in the air in Oklahoma, it is in the air in Maine, and it is in the air out in the Arizona desert, where folks will swear to you there is none. Warm air carries a lot of it. Cold air carries very little. So when the air cools down at night, it gets to a point where it simply cannot hold what it is carrying. And that water has to come out and land on something. The blade of grass, the hood of your truck, the window of the smokehouse. The temperature where that happens has a name. It is called the dew point, and your weather app on your phone gives it to you every single day for free, and almost nobody ever looks at it. Here's how to read it, and it takes you 2 seconds. Look at tonight's low and look at the dew point. If tonight's low is within about 5 degrees of the dew point, you're going to get dew. Within 5 degrees, and I will say that again, within 5 degrees of the dew point, and the sky is going to give you something. The old ones read the exact same thing off the evening, off how the smoke laid down, off the smell of the grass after supper, off a ring around the moon. Different instrument, same reading. But here's the part hardly anybody has ever heard. And it is the reason a sheet of plastic beats the weather report. Your sheet does not have to sit there and wait for the air to come down to the dew point. That sheet can get colder than the air around it, all by itself, with nothing over it but a clear night. And how a flat piece of plastic manages to get colder than the very air touching it is the thing I promised you at the start. That is the whole ball game, and we are getting closer to it. Now let me take you a long way from these hills out to the desert southwest, because our people out there did not have a wet October meadow to go walking through. They had 8 or 9 inches of rain in a year, if the year felt generous. So they farmed with rock. I have stood on those old fields, acres of ground covered over in a layer of gravel and cobble laid down by hand, stone by stone, hundreds of years before anybody from across the ocean ever laid eyes on that country. From a distance, it looks like somebody spread a driveway across half a mesa. It is not a driveway. It is a water system, and it is doing 4 jobs at the same time. Job 1. Every one of those stones goes cold at night faster than the dirt does, and dew forms on the top of them and underneath them and runs down into the soil where the roots are. Job 2. All day long, that stone shades the ground beneath it, so the sun cannot reach down and cook the moisture back out. Job 3. The stone breaks the wind right down at ground level, and wind will steal more water off open dirt in an afternoon than the sun does. Job 4. Stone soaks up heat all day and gives it back slow all night, so a frost that would have killed a plant in September just slides on past. 4 jobs. 1 material, free, lying on the ground, and it never wears out. Now here's your version, and you can do this before supper tonight for nothing. Step 1. Pick your plant. A squash hill, a tomato, a pepper, or a young fruit tree you are trying to get through its first summer. Step 2. Gather stones, anywhere from the size of your fist up to the size of a cantaloupe. Flat creek stones are the best of all, and Ada used those around her melon hills. Step 3. Start laying them about 6 inches out from the stem. 6 inches, so you are not crowding the plant. Step 4. Work them out into a ring about 2 feet across for a garden plant, or about 3 feet across for a young tree. 2 feet for a plant, 3 feet for a tree. Step 5. Lay them 1 layer deep, touching each other, with the flat side facing up. Step 6. Tip each stone just slightly downhill toward the plant, so whatever lands on it runs where you want it. That is it. And what that ring buys you is not a jar of water on the porch. It is water where it actually counts. A tomato with a stone ring around it in August will go 2 or 3 days longer between waterings than the one beside it, and it will still be standing when the other one is laying down. One thing before you go stone hunting: take what you need and leave the rest. Do not strip a creek bed bare for a garden ring, because that creek bed is somebody's home. Walk a fence line, walk an old field, walk a road cut. There's loose rock everywhere in this country if a person is willing to look. Now, up to this point, everything I have shown you costs nothing but wet knees and an early alarm clock. That is about to change by about $12. Here is the entire list. Get a pencil if you want one. 1 sheet of clear plastic, 6 mil thick, 4 feet by 8 feet. That runs about $8 at any hardware store. Cut off the roll over in the paint aisle. 6 mil, and I say 6 mil for a reason. Thinner than that sags and tears and holds wrinkles, and wrinkles are the enemy of this entire operation. 1 length of vinyl rain gutter, about 4 feet of it, or a piece of PVC pipe split right down the middle the long way. Call it $4, or free if there is a scrap of gutter leaning behind your shed, and there usually is. $8 and $4. There is your 12. Everything else you already own or the land will hand you. 4 stakes or 4 straight sticks cut out of the woods. Free. An armload of dry grass, straw, or pine needles. Free. A jar or a bucket with a wide mouth. You have one. A square of clean cloth to lay over the mouth of that jar. Free. Now, if you happen to have an old storm window pane leaning against the garage wall, use that instead of the plastic and you will do better still. Glass is excellent at this. What will not work is anything shiny and bare, like a fresh sheet of aluminum or a piece of tin roofing that still has its shine on it. Shiny throws the sky right back and never goes cold. Dull and light-colored is what you are after, and there is a reason for that too, and it is the same reason as everything else today. All right, let us build it. Take your time, 1 step at a time, and nothing here needs a strong back. Step 1, pick your spot. This is the most important step of the whole build, and I am going to come back to it hard in a few minutes, so for right now, just find yourself a place out in the open with nothing over the top of it. Step 2, clear a patch on the ground about 4 feet by 8 feet, a little bigger if you have got the room. Step 3. Spread your dry grass or straw over that whole patch, about 3 inches deep. 3 inches, and do not skip this step and do not skimp on it. That grass is not padding, it is a blanket, and I will tell you exactly what it is blocking before we are done. Step 4. Drive your 2 high stakes along one long edge, standing about knee-high out of the ground. Knee-high is close enough. Call it 1.5 feet. Step 5. Drive your 2 low stakes along the other long edge, standing about ankle-high. Ankle-high, about 6 inches. Step 6. That difference gives you your slope, and your slope wants to be about 30 degrees. If 30 degrees means nothing to you, hold your hand out flat and tip your fingertips down about 1/3 of the way toward the ground. That is close enough, and close enough works fine here. Step 7. Put the low edge facing away from wherever your evening wind usually comes from. If you do not know, do not worry about it. Step 8. Stretch your plastic across those 4 stakes with the smooth side facing up. Pull it tight. Tight, with no wrinkles and no sagging belly in the middle, because the water will sit in a wrinkle all night and let the sun have it back in the morning. Step 9. Weight all 4 edges down with stones so the wind cannot get under it, and lift the whole thing into your neighbor's yard. Step 10. Lay your gutter along the ground at the low edge, right underneath the lip of the plastic, so every drop coming off that lip lands in the trough. Step 11. Tip the gutter just a hair so it runs downhill to one end. Step 12. Set your jar under that end and lay the cloth over the mouth of the jar so bugs and leaves stay out of your water. Step 13. Go to bed. Let me gather that back up for you before we go on. A bed of dry grass 3 inches deep, a slope of about 30 degrees. Plastic pulled tight with no wrinkles. A gutter under the low lip. A covered jar at the end of the gutter. 5 things. 3 inches and 30 degrees. And that is the whole machine. One more thing on harvesting. Go get your jar in the dark or in the gray before the sun is over the trees. Same rule as Ada's meadow. Once that light hits, you're on the clock, and the clock runs about 20 minutes. Now, the same sheet of plastic that hands you a full quart will hand you a dry, empty jar, and the entire difference is where you set it down. So let us talk about placement, because this is where nearly everybody goes wrong. Rule 1. Wide open sky above it. Nothing overhead. No tree limb, no roof overhang, no clothesline, no carport, not even a wire. If there is something over your sheet, you have already lost. And by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly why. Rule 2. Off the bare ground. That is what your grass bed is doing. Bare dirt underneath will quietly ruin your night's work. Rule 3. Give it room from the house, 20 feet off the side of the house, if you can manage it, 20 feet. Because a wall that soaked up sun all afternoon is standing there warm at midnight, and it costs you. Rule 4. Out of hard wind, but not down in a hollow, a little air moving across the sheet actually helps because it keeps bringing fresh, damp air over the surface. A hard, steady wind does the opposite and strips the cold right off it. Rule 5. Away from a gravel drive or a dirt road unless you like grit in your drinking water. And the night itself, clear, calm, and damp. Clear, calm, and damp. And I will say it once more, because it is the difference between a full jar and a wasted evening. Clear sky, light wind, and air that has some moisture in it. Now let me be straight with you about how much water this actually makes, because the title on this video says free water forever. And forever is true. It is the amount that needs explaining. And I am not going to sit here and tell you a story. That 4 foot by 8 foot sheet on a decent night gives me about a quart. On a fine night in the fall, after a warm, damp day followed by a clear, cold, still night, I have poured better than a half gallon out of that jar. And on a warm, windy night in July with a cloud deck sitting overhead, I have walked out there and found the bottom of the jar barely wet, about a quart on a good night. That is the honest middle, and anybody telling you different is selling something. So 4 sheets is about a gallon a night. That is a real number for a real household. 4 sheets is about $48 of plastic and gutter, one afternoon of your time, and then a gallon a night for as long as the sky keeps doing what the sky does. No pump, no power, no filter cartridge, no delivery truck. And what is a gallon a night actually for? It is not for your shower, and it is not for the washing machine, and do not let anybody tell you it is. It is for the garden through a dry August. It is for the chickens and the dog and the rabbits. It is for a coffee pot and a pan of beans when the power has been out for 4 days and your well pump is 100 pounds of iron that will not turn. And it is for the plain, steady knowledge that you are not the fellow standing in his garage, staring at an empty barrel. Now, is it safe to drink? That is the question I get more than any other, and I'm going to answer it the way I would answer it for my own grandson. The water itself starts out about as clean as water gets on this earth. It is vapor that came out of the air and turned back into a drop on a cold surface. It carries no salt, no minerals, no runoff from anybody's field. That is the same trick Ace still does, and it is why my people always said the sky's water is the sweetest water, but the surface is not clean. Your sheet has been sitting outdoors, gathering dust and pollen all day, and sooner or later a bird is going to find it. So we have 4 rules. Rule 1, wash the sheet with plain soap and water before you set it out the first time, and then rinse it well. Rinse it well because soap in your jar is worse than dust in your jar. Rule 2, throw out the first night's catch, pour it on the tomatoes. A brand new sheet of plastic has a smell on it, and that smell will end up in your water. Rule 3, keep the cloth over the jar mouth and keep that jar out of the sun. Rule 4, if a person is going to drink it, treat it exactly the way you would treat creek water. Run it through a filter or bring it to a hard rolling boil for 1 full minute. 1 full minute at a rolling boil, and that is not a suggestion. And about the taste, it is flat. There's nothing in it, so it tastes like nothing. And some folks do not care for that at all. A pinch of salt in a quart fixes it right up. A squeeze of anything green fixes it better. Water for the garden, and the animals needs none of that fuss. Water for a person gets all 4 rules. Now, for the first few nights, this thing is going to seem like it works just fine. Then one morning, you will walk out to a dry jar and decide the whole idea was foolishness. It is not foolishness. You have just met one of the 4 mistakes, and I want you to hear them from me instead of learning them the slow way, because I made every last one of them myself. Mistake 1, laying the sheet flat. A flat sheet holds every drop right where it formed, and then the first light of morning takes all of it back up into the air. The water has to run. You need that slope of about 30 degrees. Mistake 2, setting the plastic straight down on bare ground. The ground under your feet soaked up heat all day, and it spends all night handing that heat back up. Your sheet sits there warm, and it never gets down to where it needs to be. 3 inches of dry grass underneath every time. Mistake 3, wrinkles and dust. A wrinkle is a little dam, and dust gives the water something to soak into instead of run off of. Pull it tight, wipe it down every few days, and it will pay you back. Mistake 4, sleeping in. I know that sounds like nothing. It is not nothing. That is your entire night's water, sitting there for 20 more minutes, and then gone. And then there's a 5th mistake, and the 5th one costs more than the other 4 put together. That is the one I promised you at the start of this video, and we are almost there. Before I get to it, I want to give you one more tool, because this one works in the daytime while your sheet is resting. A tree is a pump. That is all a tree is. It pulls water up out of the ground with its roots, runs it all the way up the trunk, and lets it go out through the leaves as vapor. A good-sized tree on a hot day moves a startling amount of water through itself and hands every bit of it to the sky. Our people knew perfectly well that the trees were doing this, and there is more than one nation on this continent that taught its children to take a share of it. Here's how you take your share. Step 1. Find a healthy, leafy branch that is sitting in full sun, not shade. The sun is the engine here. Step 2. Slide a clear plastic bag over as many leaves as you can gather into it. Step 3. Tie the mouth of the bag tight around the branch with string or a strip of cloth. Tight so no vapor escapes. Step 4. Tuck a small stone down into the lowest corner of the bag so it hangs low and every drop runs to that one spot. Step 5. Leave it and go do something else. Come back in the evening. Step 6. Untie it, pour off your water, and tie it back on for tomorrow. One good branch on a hot day gives you somewhere between a half pint and a quart. That is not a lot on its own, but 3 or 4 bags on 3 or 4 branches, working all day while your plastic sheet is working all night. And now you're talking about something. Now plant discipline, and this part is not optional. Trees you can use with confidence: maple, oak, hickory, cottonwood, mulberry, birch, any of those 6, and I want you looking at the leaf, not at the bark, because bark lies and leaves do not. Trees you leave alone. Black cherry, and I want you to hear that one twice. Black cherry. Wilting cherry leaves in a hot sealed bag are making something you do not want anywhere near your mouth. Mountain laurel and rhododendron, both of them, and they are all through the eastern woods. And oleander, if you live down where that grows, which is a plant a person should not be putting in their mouth in any form on any day. And the rule that covers everything I did not name: if you do not know the tree, you do not bag the tree. That is not me being careful. That is me being a woodsman. One more thing, and it is the part the old ones would have said first. Move the bag around. Do not leave it clamped on the same branch for a solid week and cook those leaves. You are taking from something that is alive, so take a little from here and a little from there and give it time to come back. That is how our people took anything from anything, and it is the reason there was still something there for the next generation. Now let me talk about your part of the country, because this does not work the same everywhere, and I would rather you hear the truth from me than find it out with an empty jar. Out in the desert, Southwest, this works beautifully, and folks are always surprised by that. They think dry country means no water in the air. What the desert actually has is a swing. It can hit 100 degrees in the afternoon and drop into the 50s before sunrise, under a sky with not one cloud in it from horizon to horizon. That swing is worth more than humidity is, and that is why our people out there built with stone. Down in the humid southeast, in the middle of July, you have got water in the air by the bucketful, but the nights stay warm and heavy, and the swing is small. You will get fewer good dew nights than you would ever guess. Your season down there is spring and fall. Across the plains in the Midwest in September and October, that is about the best there is anywhere in this country. Warm, damp days followed by clear, cold, still nights. If that is where you live, this is your time of year, right now. And the rule that covers all of it, everywhere. The bigger the gap between the day's heat and the night's cold, and the clearer the sky over your head, the more water you get. Write that on the wall of the shed. One last note. When the frost comes, this still works. You will walk out to a sheet covered in frost instead of dew, and all that means is the water froze on its way down instead of after. Let the morning warm it a little, and it melts and runs right into your gutter, same as always. All right, here it is. The thing I promised you at the very beginning of this video, and the reason a sheet of plastic in one yard fills a jar every night while the exact same sheet in the yard next door stays dry. Everything that has any warmth in it gives off heat as a kind of light. Not light you can see. Your hand does it. The ground does it. That sheet of plastic does it all day and all night, every second without stopping. In the daytime, the sun is pouring far more into that sheet than the sheet can give away, so it sits there warm. But at night, the sun is gone and the sheet keeps right on giving. It is shining its heat straight up, out of the top of itself in every direction that is up. And on a clear night, there is nothing up there to catch it. That heat goes up past the trees, up past the clouds that are not there, up past the whole of the air, and it keeps right on going out into open space, which sits at something like 450 degrees below zero. So understand what is really happening out in that yard. The air is not making your sheet cold. Your sheet is making itself cold by sending its own heat away to the coldest thing there is and getting nothing back in return. A sheet with a clear view of open sky will run somewhere between 5 and 15 degrees colder than the air touching it. 5 to 15 degrees colder than the air, and that is the entire reason this works. And now, every single rule I gave you today falls into place at once. That is why a clear night beats a muggy, overcast night, even though the cloudy night has more water in the air. Clouds are a lid. A cloud takes your sheet's heat and shines it right back down. Under a cloud deck, your sheet never gets below the dew point, and you get nothing at all. That is why you never set a dew catcher under a tree. A leaf is warm. That limb overhead is doing exactly what a cloud does, shining your heat back down at you all night long. That is why the porch roof and the carport and the eave of the house cost you anything at all. Standing in your sheet's view of the sky is a warm thing shining back. That is why 3 inches of dry grass goes underneath. The ground is warm too, and without that blanket, it feeds heat up into your sheet from below all night. That is why dull beats shiny. A dull, light-colored surface gives its heat away freely. A shiny one holds onto it and throws the sky's own light back instead. And that is why my grandmother walked the open meadow and never the edge of the woods. Here's the test, and it is the only thing you truly need to remember out of everything I have said today. Go lay down flat on the spot where you want to put your sheet and look straight up. If you can see open sky from one edge of your eye to the other, with no limb and no gutter and no wall in it, you're going to get water. If you see anything at all up there, move. The old ones never had a word for any of this. There is no word in my grandmother's language for what I just explained to you, but they knew it, every bit of it, because they watched. The elders out in the desert laid their stone fields where nothing stood over them. Ada walked the open ground at first light and never once the shade. They had the answer without ever needing the arithmetic because they had 10,000 years of mornings to work it out in. And that is the kind of thing Ada handed me for free, standing in wet grass with a bucket. Not the science of it, just the watching and the knowing. There are 101 of those handed down in the Native American way, written out plain and step by step. So they don't die with me and they don't die with you. The remedies and the backyard plants, the wild foods, the winter kitchen, and the water. $17 marked down from $47. That is less than 1 case of bottled water for the knowledge that makes the case unnecessary. Now go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera, the same one you used to take pictures. Point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up. Give it a tap and it will take you straight to the book. And if you are watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Take your time. There is no rush at all. I'll wait right here. So that is the jar out in my yard. A sheet of plastic, a bed of dry grass, a slope, a gutter, and a piece of naked sky over the top of it, and the sky doing the work while I sleep. Amma, my grandmother called it. That is our word for water. Now tell me in the comments where your water comes from. City water, a well, a spring, a cistern. And if your people had a way of catching water that I have not shown you here, put it down below, because that is exactly the kind of knowledge that dies when nobody thinks to ask. I read every single one. Next time, I am taking you out to the wild onion patch because in these hills, a wild onion dinner in the spring is a bigger event than most holidays. And I'm going to show you the plant that comes up right in among them, close enough to fool a grown man who ought to know better. And it will put you in the ground. There is one test that tells them apart. It costs you nothing, and it takes about 2 seconds. Wado, my friends. That means thank you. Walk easy, and I'll see you down the trail.